How y'all doing? This is your boy, Lord Thaddeus Cray. This one is going to be kind of standard fare for me, but at the same time, it's going to be something that I've not really focused on itself. I'm talking about the Rougarou. Obviously, this thing has connections with the werewolf and dogman, etc., etc. There are many variations of this thing. Basically, what I would think of as a werewolf, or maybe a dogman, is definitely something to take into account. This thing goes back all the way to old French legends and folk stories, as well as some stuff that really may have happened. Think of the Beast of Gévaudan, which I have done a video on before. That's a good example. So, of course, the original term Rougarou is pretty much a lot of that is Cajun dialect, which, of course, is the Acadians that came down here and settled in the States. But I'm going to speak on this. It was originally known as the Loup-garou, L-O-U-P, and Garou. That in itself is interesting, of course. Naturally, when the Acadians came from France down here to the States and, settled all over, you have to understand something. That in itself, what's going to happen? They're going to take their lore and their beliefs and different things and legends with them. So it's only natural that you would have something like that. So there are so many variations of this thing. My God, there's so many variations. There, of course, is the old classic version, which is naturally similar to a demonic possession or a werewolf infection. Supposedly, an individual might be bitten or scratched. They have, I think, around 100 or so days to try to cure this affliction, and if not, they're kind of stuck that way for good. And anyone, of course, who is infected becomes one pretty quick. Now, there is some mention of the full moon, but not too much as you think. A lot of that, I'm not going to say it's Hollywood, but there's definitely something there. But, again, there's the similarities, basically of a man becoming cursed as a monster is pretty frightening in itself. You also have another variant, which is kind of interesting. It's almost like a vampire. It feeds on blood. Now, the appearances of these things are very different, and I'm just saying that's one thing that's why I was saying everything from werewolf to dogman. There are some that look like the wolfman, supposedly, the infection, and also, of course, there are some with the body of a man and the head of a wolf, which, of course, you can get where I'm going with that. Dogman, kind of, sort of. It really ties into a lot of things, the different variants of different things with the same kind of, or similar, I'm not going to say the same, but a similar type of creature or beast. Or a man that is cursed to become one. The stories vary. Also, there's a variation, I think, where it is a Catholic that is cursed because he didn't obey the rules of Lent and got greedy, I think. Almost like the Wendigo, very much greed gets him and he becomes a monster. I mean, it's crazy stuff, man. Just the variations of it. That's what I think is so cool about this. Now, what exactly could it be? I definitely believe there's something paranormal with this. Definitely something supernatural, maybe even demonic, I don't know. But I think there is definitely something going on with that. I'll tell you this right now. And obviously, it's something that really strikes interest in me because it's an old legend that literally started in Europe and came down here, if you know what I mean. And of course, you have back in the day, you had many people don't know this. I'm pretty sure people are very familiar with, of course, the stories of witchcraft and supposed witches. And of course, many times they were not. It was the church trying to flex its ego and claim land. We all know this to be fact. It's proven. And of course, there burns the witches at the stake. But here's something many people do not know. Some do. Werewolves, supposedly people will be accused of being one, whether it be through magical means or infection, and they themselves would meet a similar fate, or be hung, drawn and quartered. There's all kinds of god-awful stuff. So it's only natural that such legends would be brought down here, and of course, same thing. And I'm pretty sure back in the day, even in Louisiana, there wasn't much difference, if you get my drift, especially with the strong influences down there. You have to understand, Louisiana has a very strong, especially New Orleans, has a very strong magical, as well as supernatural base in their beliefs, their culture. I mean, hell, you even see guys dressed as Rougarou on Mardi Gras, it's kind of cool, really, if you want the honest God truth in the matter. But I just wanted to kind of bring this up. It's very interesting, to say the least, about the linkage between these two things, the Lougarou and the Rougarou. They're pretty much, I'm not going to say the exact same thing, but there's definitely a connection. I'll tell you that now. And as I said, many people back in the day were persecuted and hung and killed for supposedly being a werewolf, and most of the time it was, of course, a lie or a mistake from people being superstitious and foolish. Of course, you know, you guys already know I've been actually incorporated into my stories, that kind of lore. Especially with Werewolf Hunter and Abel the Founder. But the fact is, especially Abel's beginnings, but the fact is that in itself is something that I think there's definitely something going on. I mean, of course, you have people being paranoid and basically, sorry to say, foolish, or I'm not going to say stupid, because there was definitely something going on which made people understandably not just being superstitious, but there was a lot of stuff they saw and a lot of things they encountered. Just like today. It ain't no different. The only difference is people are a lot more superstitious, in some ways more accepting of the fact of the supernatural than people are now. Now, in some ways, I think we're kind of undergoing, especially since, the turn of the century, was 2000 and all that coming around. Post 9/11, there has been a uptick in the seeking to understand, and in some ways acceptance of such creatures. And that in itself is a good thing and a bad thing. Because, of course, the bad thing leads to people wanting to say, hey, what can I find more about these things? And they find out that maybe they shouldn't have figured it out at all. Just going to leave it at that. You want knowledge, you better be careful what you're looking for. Just going to leave it at that. I knew a man, good fella. He decided to look into some, I still know the guy. But anyway, he decided to look into an ancient book. And yeah, he found something. It traumatized him pretty bad, too. That is another thing to this so-called awakening of understanding. Many people think they understand, but they don't. Some things I do encourage when it comes to seeking of knowledge. I do believe that something like the Rougarou exists. There's no doubt about that in my mind. Do I believe it's connected to the dogman and the werewolf or whatever? Yeah, well, obviously. Definitely. Of course, there are a lot of dogman sightings here in the South. Hell, just listen to D.W.'s story about Taylor, Mississippi. I mean, that right there is giveaway right there. And, of course, Louisiana and even here in Texas, near the border where I live, you have a lot of sightings. A lot of them, actually. More than you'd think. So it's only natural in Louisiana, which is a very spiritually rich state, both in good and bad, that you have something like that going down. I just wanted to put this out there. I figured it's been a while since I've done a cryptid video. You guys know what I do. I am the producer for Dark Waters Entertainment. If you've had an encounter with a dogman, Bigfoot, my ex, whatever it is, or, of course, a supernatural encounter would be ghosts or any other kind of phenomena, hit me up. I'll make sure you have the chance to have your story shared, as well as, of course, be interviewed. So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and sign off with that. You guys be blessed and you be safe.